let's get into it because there's a lot to get
I
into.
know. I
I
know.
want to I want to start with where things ended because you end up voting for D, and hell, you basically like spoil the finale halfway through by being like, if D makes this through, she'll win the final four immunity. She'll send me to fire, and then she wins. Was there any inkling of you in watching that final tribal council that made you want to vote the other way, or were you always going to vote for D
Mm, What was I always going to vote for D?
to
Oh, wait.
win? To
Oh,
win, sorry.
oh, for sure. I mean, I was so clear that if D makes it past five, D deserved to win. I just felt that she was the biggest strategic player. She had done the strategy side, the emotional side. Like it was really clear. Now, I will say I didn't know that Austin would come that hard at Final Tribal Council because my ideal was sitting beside Jake and Austin. That was what I
Mm.
wanted. I felt very confident that I would be able to get votes and Jake wouldn't. And that ended up being correct that he didn't get votes. So I feel good that I called that. But at Final Tribal Council, or before Final Tribal Council, I viewed Austin as like number four of the Reba four. And so I was like, if D and Drew are the strategic, minds, Julie is the emotional connection one. Like Austin kind of doesn't have either of those, especially like some of the emotional decisions he made later in the game that I thought, this is clearly a good point for me to like jump on him at Final Tribal Council. So I was very confident. But then watching him at Final, I will say, like, I was like, oh, maybe he would have gave me, a stronger run for my money than I realized because a lot of things were exposed in Final Tribal Council that I didn't know about.
Well, you talk about being a planner throughout this season. I'm sure you already had something in mind that if you made that fire and you stuck through to day 26, I mean, D sort of outlines a lot of stuff that you were always on the right side of the vote. You were never really targeted. Was that part of the argument you would be making if you made it to that day?
Well, 100%. And let me just correct you, Mike. I didn't sort of have a light plan. I had every bullet point of my tribal council speech ready to go. I would practice it at night. I would practice fire and I would practice my final tribal council speech. I was so ready because I felt that the way I had to play to survive meant that I had to keep such a low profile, almost to my detriment, where I was like, there are some people on the jury who are going to be like, Katurah, you know what I mean? But I wanted that. I wanted you to question my gameplay so much that I got taken to the final three. I wasn't, let me be proud and I can't be taken. I was like, take me. I want to go. I want to be taken. I had like a Marianne, Erica, Gabler energy in mind where people were like, you're definitely not a threat. And then you come up and you say, look, I've been in this game the whole time. And Dee was absolutely right. I mean, I made the decision at 12 at that, tribe split with Caleb to change the whole game. That was in my hands. And I decided I'm tired of, trying to keep working with Bello slash New Lulu people over and over and over again and getting nowhere. I'm gonna flip this whole thing around. I'm gonna stand up for me. And I voted Caleb out and I felt proud of that. And I thought that Caleb would respect that move. And then I approached Reba and I was like, here's what we're gonna do. And it's gonna look like I'm working with Bello the whole time, but that's just so they don't know if we can keep knocking them out. And I felt really good that everything I mapped out happened. I literally called it. I said, like, I'll work with Reba to knock out these bellows who I know I can't work with and aren't going to work with me anyway. And then when Reba starts fighting amongst themselves, who they're going to need for the vote, who they're going to need to say, let's take out somebody. And when Austin and Drew said, yeah, Katurah, we'll write Julie down with you. I was like, it's happening. And when, Dee was like, do you want to do Drew? I was like, it's happening. Now Reba's breaking up and they're coming to me. Like every single part of the game I mapped out and I watched it unfold. So yeah, I was itching to speak at Final Tribal Council. Yeah. But
Well, yeah, I mean, let's talk about sort of the one deviation from a plan, perhaps, that occurred for you, which is, of course, that final five mess is putting it mildly, and not just from your perspective, from like everybody's
oh
perspective.
yeah.
So walk me through that mental process. Were you
Yeah.
picking things up at tribal council that made you feel like the votes were coming onto you? At what point did you decide, oh no, things might go wrong? Bye bye, D. I'm going to Julie.
I thought things would go wrong. I thought there was a high possibility that things would go wrong the moment I realized, oh, this plan relies solely on me trusting Jake. I'm like, this is a terrible predicament because we'd had this history of him proposing ideas and me being like, this isn't the best logical plan. This isn't the best strategic move. And like I love Jake, but I had felt that we repeatedly came across Jake's desire to make a big flashy move and it being his downfall. Like I felt that his desire to make a flashy move would often skew his vision of like, but is this the right move? Does this to make the most sense? The Caleb going to rocks at final 12 and expecting me to take a 1 in 3 shot of going home. And then immediately right before it confirming my suspicions that, I was the bottom and excluded and you guys were never going to work with me and withholding key information in the game. I'm like, why would you do that, Jake? Like, so we had multiple of those moments, even with the Drew vote. I was like, we should tell D. She's not going to tell Austin. We know D. D's not going to tell Austin. And he was like, no, 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 no. Let's go to Rocks again. Like, let's do a tie. And I was like, why would we do a tie? So this is like our relationship has been one of just major distrust. I've been with Jake since literally day one.
Hmm.
We've never been on the same page. So I knew it was a risk, but I went to Austin and I said, you got to write D. And he was like, I'm not willing to do it. And I went to Julie and I was like, if we don't write D, D wins. And she literally said, I know. And I still can't write her name down. And so I was already like, I'm in this almost impossible corner, which is why you see me like staring at his eyes. And I'm like, please swear on something. Please. Like, I'm looking at him like, I want this to work. I want to believe you. But everything in my body, Mike, I'm telling you, I can feel it right now. Every
Hmm.
single bit of my body was giving alarm bells. Every single part of me said, Jake's lying. Jake's going to try to do something flashy and it's not going to make sense and it's going to backfire on you. And the fact also that I had taken hours to convince him not to do Julie and to do D. And I was like, this should be obvious. Like, I was already just really skeptical. And,
Hmm.
a little bit about my background from the show, but the way I've been, living in the world and surviving in the real world has meant you listen when those alarm bells go off. You listen to your body, you listen to that instinct. And I may not always be able to articulate why alarm bells are going off, but if there's something happening, I've learned like you got to listen. It literally could mean your life. And it has saved my life in multiple instances. So when he was talking, I would be like, Jake, like I wish they showed a little bit more of that. I was like, Jake, please. I'm like, please, like I want to. And I knew he was hiding something. I felt it. And it turned out the thing he was hiding was that he wanted to play his idol for me instead of himself and make a big flashy move. And he wanted to, prey on the fact that I was running into fear that it was going to be me. And I'm like, you never want to make somebody in Survivor feel the fear that it's going to be me tonight, especially if you have a way to stop that. Tell me, I'll act surprised. We can still get the jury on board with you. Like, whatever you let me know I'm safe because 100% she would have been gone.
Mm. Well, I mean, you mentioned about sort of like your background, and you alluded to this in interviews as well, like that you are looking for those signs and those alarm bells. And it seemed like from what even you described to me in this interview that that was part of the reason why you were really quick to be like, all right, I'm not feeling great on Bello. Let me find people in the Rebas. Now, of course, there is the Bruce of it all who made you not feel good, but also Kelly and Kendra seem to make you feel good as well. So, I mean, talk to me about why you decided in that moment in particular, like, okay, Bello is not what I can move forward with. Let me go forward with these Reba people.
Are you talking about the day 12?
Yeah, I would say, and also most of the post merge as well, right? As the Bellos are
Yeah.
winnowing down, while you really wanted to get in tight with the Rebas.
Yeah, the only thing I would correct about that was it was nothing quick. Nothing was
Hmm.
quick about my decision. I mean, for me, when I think back to the first 12 days of the game, which, I had the very lucky fortune of being with almost the exact same people, even after the tribe swap. Um, if I'm being honest, I was miserable. Oh man, Mike, I was
Hmm.
so miserable. I'm gonna get emotional thinking about it, but when I think back to that time, I almost view me like in a fetal position on the ground, getting kicked, and just constantly getting hit after hit, and being like, "Why? I didn't do anything." And I kept saying that. I kept, being like, "I don't know why I'm the outcast." if there was like a Emily moment, right, where she was extremely negative and abrasive with her tribe, like, and they were like, we don't love this, let's get you out. That would make sense. And I'm thinking in Survivor World, I'm like, I know Survivor World. If you do this early, you're gonna be the outcast. If you do that, you're gonna be the outcast. And I was like, I'm friendly, I'm nice, I'm checking all the boxes. I don't understand why I am the outcast. And I felt like I kept trying at Bello, but just the dynamics. I think as much as we, maybe don't want to admit it, from my perception, Bruce was the leader of Bello. Like everybody else is 30 and under, and he's 46. And he's the military guy, and he's the coach. I literally heard Brando and Jake saying in the beginning, like, he reminds me of my dad or coach or something. They were both very infatuated with Bruce, it seemed to me. And then once Kelly switched over with the boys, that makes me and Kendra on the outs. And
Yeah.
Kendra, I perceived as being like, I love you, but I got to preserve myself. Because now it's, if we go to tribal, it could be Katurah or Kendra. And I know Kendra was working really hard to have some sort of relationship with Bruce. I mean, he really did take Kelly under his wing, and it was kind of like Katurah and Kendra, whatever. And so I think she was working hard to like cultivate that relationship with him to be like, can I get on the end? And I was like, I don't think that he'll ever let me in the end. So it doesn't
Mm.
matter what I do to like try and hi Bruce and yay and it felt like who I was, like Katurah, bothered him, and there would be no way in. And so with Kelly going with the boys, and it just felt like there was no way. And that was my suspicion at Bello. And then we go to New Lulu, and it was like everything was 10 times worse. Everything
Yeah.
got extremely clear. It was like every suspicion I had, I felt it, but it was like, well, we didn't go to tribal, so we don't really know. Right. That's the
Mm.
problem. We never went to tribal. There was never a display of trust. It was just, let's see how people are acting. Let's see who people are connecting with, who they're talking to, who they're not talking to. And all the signs pointed to Couture's on the outs.
Yeah. So last thing I want to ask is obviously you open up about your backstory over a couple of episodes, and feel free to talk about this to the extent that you want to, but I would love to hear from your perspective. I mean, what was that like to sort of revisit your past in such a pressurized environment, and what's been your reaction to the reaction from the fans who obviously like very much saw you in those moments?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. I can't even sugarcoat it. It was tough, and I went into the game knowing that I have some of these heavy things on my heart. And I go through life, smiling and laughing, and nobody could ever know the horrors that I've seen and things I've been
Mm.
through. And so I was telling myself going into the game, one, you're winning this money, no way around it. And two, on the off chance that you don't, do something that makes your heart set on fire, or something that makes your
Mm.
heart feel a little bit lighter, something that makes you feel a little bit like, "Phew, okay, I said it." And shockingly, what I revealed, I thought was the thing that most people could like understand. I was like, well, this doesn't seem too crazy. I feel like people would like understand this concept because religious trauma, that's a thing. People have
Yeah.
that. I didn't plan on revealing the no contact with my mom. That just popped up in the game. But I felt that like a lack of education, religious trauma, like people might be able to understand what I was saying on those things. And so hearing people react to it actually helped me. Like it was healing because I was going to say very limited things about it. But there was a moment where I'm sitting on the beach with Jake and Julie, and I don't even tell them about the cult or anything. I just say I got taken out of school at fifth grade and I never went to middle school. They don't even know about law school, right? And they were so blown away. And they were like, you didn't go to school for like almost 4 years? Like what? And then you went straight to high school? And they were shocked. And I remember saying later in my confessionals, like, oh, okay, it is a big deal, right? Like
Yeah.
it's me and I'm living it so I can get a little skewed in terms of what is big and what isn't. And so it's like a healing. It's healing. I believe in the power of telling stories. I believe in the power of we tell each other stuff, then we might connect in ways that I didn't know you needed and vice versa. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, people have been flooding me with their own stories, and it's painful, you know, because we have
Yeah.
so many stories of people pushing through things they shouldn't have had to deal with, but it's also, like, resilient. It's like, "Whoa," like, we can all say, "Yeah, I had that crazy thing happen too, but look where I am. Look what I'm doing," and honestly, just existing and smiling and being able to, like, laugh and talk and still push through, that was really important for me to show the other side.
Yeah, and it was incredibly important for us to see as well because truly you brought all of yourself to this Katurah in so many surprising ways. I'm assuming for yourself and for us as well. And to say it was a pleasure getting to watch you be your full self would be an understatement. You know how much I love getting to talk with you. You were such like a multifaceted person over the course of this season, and obviously, I wish you were given that like hella powerful final three speech that you were talking about.
Oh,
But like,
ooh,
it
I was
was
ready.
but it was so great getting to watch you over the course of the season and especially getting to talk with you today about it all.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Likewise. Well, all the best to you and yours and happy holidays, Katurah. Have a good one.
Happy holidays. Bye, Mike.
Bye.